The reasons I was so certain were that first, I was standing in a bright shaft of sunlight, the kind of blinding clear sun that never shone on my drizzling new hometown in Forks, Washington. And second, I was looking at my grandma Marie. Gran had been dead for 6 years now, so that was solid evidence towards the dream theory. Gran hadn't changed much. Her face looked just the same as I remembered it. The skin was soft and withered, bent into 1,000 tiny creases that clung gently to the bone underneath, like a dried apricot, but with a puff of thick white hair standing out in a cloud around it. Our mouths, hers a wizened pucker, spread into the same surprised half-smile at just the same time. Apparently, she hadn't been expecting to see me either. I was about to ask her a question. I had so many. What was she doing here in my dream? What had she been up to in the past 6 years? Was Pop okay, and had they found each other wherever they were? But she opened her mouth when I did, so I stopped to let her go first. She paused too, and then we both smiled at the little awkwardness. Bella? It wasn't Gran who called my name, and we both turned to see the addition to our small reunion. I didn't have to look to know who it was. This was a voice I would know anywhere, know and respond to whether I was awake or asleep or even dead, I bet. The voice I'd walk through fire for, or less dramatically, slosh every day through the cold and endless rain for. Edward. Even though I was always thrilled to see him, conscious or otherwise, and even though I was almost positive that I was dreaming, I panicked as Edward walked towards us through the glaring sunlight. I panicked because Gran didn't know I was in love with a vampire. Nobody knew that. So how was I supposed to explain the fact that the brilliant sunbeams were shattering off his skin into 1,000 rainbow shards like he was made of crystal or diamond? Well, Gran, you might have noticed that my boyfriend glitters. It's just something he does in the sun. Don't worry about it. What was he doing? The whole reason he lived in Forks, the rainiest place in the world, was so that he could be outside in the daytime without exposing his family's secret. Yet here he was, strolling gracefully towards me, with the most beautiful smile on his angel's face, as if I was the only one here. In that second, I wished I was not the one exception to his mysterious talent. I usually felt grateful that I was the only person whose thoughts he couldn't hear just as clearly as if they were spoken aloud. But now I wished he could hear me too, so that he could hear the warning I was screaming in my head. I shot a panicked glance back at Gran and saw that it was too late. She was just turning to stare back at me, her eyes as alarmed as mine. Edward, still smiling so beautifully that my heart felt like it was going to swell up and burst through my chest, put his arm around my shoulder and turned to face my grandmother. Gran's expression surprised me. Instead of looking horrified, she was staring at me sheepishly as if waiting for a scolding, and she was standing in such a strange position, one arm held awkwardly away from her body, stretched out and then curled around the air, like she had her arm around someone I couldn't see, someone invisible. Only then, as I looked at the bigger picture, did I notice the huge gilt frame that enclosed my grandmother's form. Uncomprehending, I raised the hand that wasn't wrapped around Edward's waist and reached out to touch her. She mimicked the movement exactly, mirrored it, but where our fingers should have met, there was nothing but cold glass. With a dizzying jolt, my dream abruptly became a nightmare. There was no Gran. That was me in a mirror, me ancient, creased, and withered. Edward stood beside me, casting no reflection, excruciatingly lovely and forever 17. He pressed his icy, perfect lips against my wasted cheek. "Happy birthday," he whispered. That's just a little bit of the beginning of New Moon. It's been a really interesting experience to